passenger side of his best friend's ride. Tied to the holler at me. I don't want no scrub. Scrub is a guy who ain't no love for me. Standing in the passenger side of his best friend's ride. Tied to the holler at me. Tied to the holler at me. Hello everybody, happy Saturday. Hello, good afternoon everybody. The dojo, please send me a request. Okay, let me see. I'll send you one. Hi Lindani. Guys. Wow. In the meantime, they are joining. Let me just do this, sort out the technicalities. I've sent them a request, so I'm waiting for them to accept it. I hope you guys are having a fabulous Saturday. I am. Okay, I don't know what's happening. They haven't accepted my request as yet. The dojo, I've sent you guys a request to join me. Please, can you just accept that? Okay, I'm gonna send them another request because it says that they were unable to join. I don't know why. I'm just gonna send them another one. Let's see. Invite. Mas Bonike.
How's everybody doing?
There we go. Hello, gents. I see you're having technological issues there. Are you rotating?
Never done anything like this?
Yeah.
Didn't think you guys would up here, but I guess we're doing it. So,
Pulling it out. Yes. No, they can't see.
You guys are sideways. Come on, folks. I'm sure you can just. Let's see. Try it out. I mean, I don't know how to. Let's see.
Whoa.
Look at whose phone is this?
Yeah, wait, but why can't she? Can she?
Yeah.
What about? Can you hear?
I can hear you, but I also want to see you properly.
Yeah, so that means the camera is not fucking on. Sorry for my language.
No need to apologize. We just say unfiltered raw and unfiltered, so be you.
Yeah, just
find camera. Yeah, this one is broken.
Just technical difficulties. We're gonna try to
use a different phone.
Yeah, different phone.
It's okay. We'll be patient with you. Do your thing. I'm sure you guys can figure out 3 brains are better than 1 brain, so you got this.
Right. Okay. So let me jump on.
I'm gonna play music in the meantime while you guys are sorting yourselves out. Is that okay?
Cool.
Cool.
Oh, cool. Now
We've got data.
Hello, everybody. The gents are sorting themselves out, rotating the camera or whatever needs to be done on their side. I'm not the basic technology.
Hey, that's a banana.
Yeah.
Oh, Manja, they left. I'm going to send them another request. Let's see. I think they're just struggling there. Let me just, it happens when you're going live and then all sorts of things happen. Okay, send them another request. Let's hope that they can sort themselves out. For now, I will play some music. Does anyone want to pick a song and I'll play that song? Oh, I'll play some Amanda Black or Rafael. Okay. The dojo, I've sent you guys another request as per your requests. So waiting for you guys to accept. The coffee. Halala Sandile, I like that. Listen, the coffee. This is why my water is here. Keeps me very focused, you know? Keeps me very focused. Coffee sometimes, will put you in trouble. You know, all that caffeine sometimes just takes you away a bit too far. Let's see what you're saying to me. Okay.
It was about to do it.
I'm back. Now we can't see you.
Oh man. Where's my
Emanyane.
Give me time.
there? So that's
Okay, something's happening.
yeah. Okay, there's the fun camera. Sorry. You need more light, bro.
Ah, Skawara. Light you.
I see how.
Yeah, we need light, bro. Give us light, yo.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Are you guys struggling with the portrait thing? You're still landscape, so you're struggling with it.
Oh, we should be. Do you want us to be portrait or landscape?
Tell it's hard because they did it.
Prefer
because we have visa coming. So do we have to shift? Because we have it as landscape at the moment.
I was going to shift too.
Yeah, I think I don't know what it has to happen technologically, but I want you guys upright because we can't
Upright,
now have to
okay. Turn the fucking camera, bro.
Let's try portrait.
I can do portrait.
Yes, let's do that. Let's do that.
We'll just put our heads together.
Yeah. But I'm getting frustrated because we put it
Upside down.
upside down.
Okay, Skawara. Let's see.
I'm not trying to see the palm jewel. That's what I'm saying right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes! Well done.
Look at that here, bro.
That's how I can.
I'm so proud of you. You've actually made it. Okay.
Yes,
There's just two
yes,
of you.
yes.
I want to see everybody.
For all of you.
Yes.
Lekeni, Le Sharp, Le Monati.
Show it straight.
Let's
Yeah.
see something.
We good.
Ubatla disaza.
No. See the way I left my glasses in the car.
But look at like technology. Look at like technology then.
Sharp, okay, we're just waiting for Murise. We've got
Okay.
lighting coming up.
Yeah. Can you guys see us properly? We tried to get some lighting.
Listen, we can see you. You are here, all the way here.
Yeah, that's how I was really about to nigga.
Aye.
Mara, you know, look at like technology. Somebody's comment, they were saying how look at like technology. What was happening?
Yeah.
So there was a comment to say you guys are struggling with technology. Like how?
Yeah.
How?
And I linked at them all the
Fuck you, nigga.
So obviously, you know, our people know. Okay. Technology kumambo.
Yeah.
Mara,
You know?
I get now you youngins are supposed to be keeping him current and just keeping him fresh and going. So we blame you as well. We blame you.
We try, sir. We try.
So do we wait? Yeah, go for it.
Oh yeah, no. I was just talking. Sharp, is everybody good? I see people are still coming and joining us. So we're about to send a tweet as well to just remind people to come and join us, Kahim.
Pop. If only I had that horn. I don't have that horn, but I'm like, yes, man, do what you gotta do. I'm good. I'm actually, I must say, a confession. So I was quite nervous, like having you guys live now because I've never spoken to like a group. It's usually one-on-one. So the fact that we had technological challenges actually helped me to ease into the whole thing. So I'm feeling good.
No, we're glad. We are excited to be here.
From our positioning, I just want to find out: are people hearing us? Okay? Can the people hear us?
Question, actually. Well, they seem to be laughing and everything. Mabi, halala, are you guys hearing the gents?
Just let us know if you can hear us because we've got the phone on a tripod.
I think they can hear you because
Still Let us know. We actually are.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, yes, they can.
Because we are actually in our studio. We are just fresh off recording our episode 8.
No, episode 7.
Yes. So we are still in the studio.
Shit.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Episode 7. Episode 7.
One of our is going to smoke, but we can start with join us.
Yeah, he'll join us. Then we can kick it.
Okay, cool. Guys, I am so excited to have you guys on board today. I was saying to Tabang earlier, I was like, listen, all this testosterone that I have to handle, I must make sure I'm ready for it because it's quite a thing to carry on my shoulders. So I'm quite excited. I hope you guys will be kind to me. You know, 3 gents on 1 lady. Please be kind.
I don't know how to tell the story.
Oh wow. Would you say? I see.
Just sit down.
Welcome.
Tell a coffee I can't hear a damn thing. Where's your earplug? I don't know. So I as the only able hearing person, yeah. I'll as you ask, Kita Bachela, what's happening?
Anyway, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Mudise, welcome. I must just say, clearly you are an honorable member because we could not proceed without you. We had to wait for you. So welcome back. The guys had to sort out some technological issues, but I also see there's a bit of a time lag. I don't know if you guys, your signal, you're kind of.
Oh,
like
is it? Yeah, because
like
you are 5. Yeah, you are absolutely perfect on our side.
Okay.
So on your side, are you experiencing a time lag? Because you coming out perfectly.
Yeah, we can hear you clearly.
There was, but now it seems to be fine. But I think we're just going to have to rely on everybody who's online now, the audience, just to, if there's any issues, to let us know because I can't hear you guys.
Oh, okay, great. So please just inform us. We try to fix it, yeah.
Okay, cool. Gents, would you say you missed this? I was just saying to the guys now that I'm so excited to have you guys here with me today. And I was quite nervous as I was expressing to them because, you know, I've never had to have 3 people live at the same time. It's usually one-on-one, which is a lot easier. So just before this, I had to do a lot of pep talking to myself to be like, listen, you're gonna be fine. It's okay. They're not gonna eat you alive. It's gonna be fine. So when
we'll eat you, just not alive.
Hey?
We'll eat you, just not alive.
And not literally. because I gotta. Yeah, so not literally. We are actually very, 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 you know, easygoing, cool people. You know, whenever we've had guests on the podcast, you know, they feel the same way when we initially invite them. But after the recording and after everything is said and done, you know, it's you know, they're feeling free. It's a party. Like, come on, Giants. On a next one. You know?
Okay, alilomi.
Nakaloma.
Oh,
Aloma,
guys.
And you're like, what do you mean, fam? They got teeth.
Why you guys have dogs? You know?
You mean next?
Yeah, but thanks for the invite. We really appreciate it. Just a warning to your followers: we are really frank people. We don't like being filtered. We are respectful in terms of our intention, but our content and our tone maybe might rub off people a certain way. Especially now we just came back from a recording mode, so halufa puo ya Sesotho re bua pha. Let's get into maikutlo. So yeah, we're very pure in terms of intention. We are respectful in terms of what we deliver and the content, but sometimes you might have to sift. There are some unsavory words, but that's not the intention. Yeah.
Okay, I love that disclaimer because then it at least makes my audience aware to know that it's not the typical kind of, you know, conversation we have on a Saturday. You guys are different. You're doing what you're doing, and you have real talk. And actually, what I'm doing now, I'm just pinning, sorry about that. I'm pinning a comment so that anyone who joins after this knows what the conversation is about. So please bear with me.
Ready?
I selected the Bluetooth speaker so that it comes out through there.
Yeah, but I would, I don't know if whether I would, my Bluetooth is on, so it should on.
It should automatically.
Everyone switch off your Bluetooth, so it's only him.
Yeah, it's only him. Mine is not on.
Yeah, just switch the Bluetooth on.
Yeah.
I just wanna also try to have you on speaker.
So it's
Yeah,
loud.
so that my deaf ass can hear you, you know?
I'll work a lighting, guys.
I'm good. Let me know when you guys are good to proceed.
Okay, you see it. We'll talk with the Dojo podcast. Hey, please, you name it.
Is your Bluetooth on?
Yeah, it should be.
Are you happy?
Yeah, scroll it down. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's fine.
Hey, what did you guys break now? You're breaking something. You're here hanging. What's happening? Good. Cool.
Yes.
Why is it?
I don't know. Maybe it doesn't connect. I don't know.
You guys are good. Don't stress about anything. Are you good?
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Okay, cool. And just to let everyone know, I will be, and for you guys as well, I will save this conversation. I mean, we have an hour to have the conversation. I'll save it on my Instagram TV. So the Dojo community is actually asking, just as I was saying that, so I will be saving it. So you'll still be able to refer back to it later. Cool. Happiness. I am honored to be sitting in front of these, well, remotely in front of you three gents. I mean, I've seen some of the work that you guys have done, the conversations that have been had. Tabang has shared with me. I've seen that you are loved on Twitter, like they love you. I checked out your YouTube channel. I'm following you. And I'm like, I was saying to Tabang the one time, I'm like, so people actually listen to you because you guys like talk for a long time and they listen to you. So for anybody who hasn't been exposed, because a lot of people who are live now and they've never been exposed to the Dojo podcast. So I want to know, what is the Dojo? Just to make it easier for them to ease into who you are. Who are you guys? What are you about?
Oh, what is the Dojo? So the Dojo podcast is a podcast. So so we're three I would say layman individuals come together to discuss, you know, things that affect us, and things that we are interested in, and we try to convey everything that we, you know, talk about in the way we would discuss it, even if cameras were not rolling.
Sure.
You know, so hence, you know, we are steadfast with the raw and unfiltered, because, you know, this is not, you know, chats that are, you know, pre-planned. Usually, a lot of times we usually come, you know, just sit and we just shoot and just speak our thoughts very, you know, raw and at the moment. You know, we don't always get everything right, but we are always, you know, always real, and we try to, because we use the podcast as a platform to learn and share ideas. You know, so for me, that is what the Dojo podcast means. You know,
Yeah.
So I don't know if Tabanga and Takaswanya say some not.
Look, yeah, I think actually it's a good thing that Des answered the question, because he's the founder of the podcast.
Oh,
But I think it's a glimpse through the window into the world of a young progressive black man growing up in South Africa, questioning his relationship with his environment, and his environment being either politics, culture, business, capital, relationships, because I feel like as young black people, actually as young black people, particularly as men, we always say when women listen to us, they must not listen to us with an intention to catch us out, but with an intention to understand what a man's environment and unfiltered environment behaves. And then in turn, they would know how to interact with this entity called a man, a black man, young, progressive, living in an environment that is called South Africa, with this political turmoil, cultural challenges, and everything that's
Gender
going on.
dynamics.
So we are not a broadcast, we are a podcast because it's personal. So I think that about sums it up, unless Melissa wants to add something that he believes I did not add.
The operative word from what he said is the progressive part.
Yeah.
Because in order for us, in order for you as a listener to understand what it is that we're doing, you need to have witnessed our trajectory of progression over the past couple of years. You know, there might have been opinions that we could have had maybe 2 or 3 years ago that changed today, some of which might have remained the same, but you always have to look at us in the sense of like in the lens of you looking at yourself, you know, knowing that the notions and ideas that you had in the past are not necessarily the same that you might hold today. So it's easy for you to take a snapshot of whatever it is that we said at the time in which we said it, and for you to make a decision based on what you heard and decide to either write us off or support us, you know. But just know that whatever decision that you make concerning whatever it is that you saw, it could either change or remain the same depending on what the topic is.
Sure.
You know. Yes.
Wow. You know, I think, thank you for that. Thank you for that introduction, you know, giving us a bit of insight into what you guys are about. And I'm very curious as I'm listening to you guys, because you're highlighting so many things that for me as a young Black South African woman, I know that men, not African men particularly, because I'm an African, so I'm exposed mostly to African men, we are not very vocal. So what is it about you guys? What is it that like basically ignited that flame to say, let's speak up, let's speak out about some of these things, whatever they are, and how did you guys come together?
Yeah. So I guess when we started the podcast, because I'm a avid podcast listener. So podcasting is not a new platform. It might be relatively new in the South African space, but you know, internationally, you know, it's a thriving medium. So as someone who just got a little bit dejected with how some of the, you know, pressing conversations were happening on South African radio, because we only had like 702 who really just, you know, really debate and discuss things, and 702 being, you know, quote unquote white, it didn't necessarily all the time speak to some of the things that I felt,
yeah.
You know, so I thought, you know, as someone who's, you know, heavily on social media, love the international podcast, so like, you know, wouldn't it be dope if you know, I recorded some of the conversations I have with my friends, you know, because initially it started out as, you know, hip hop. We discussed a lot of hip hop, you know, with a little bit of social issues. But, you know, most of the time when I got, you know, around my friends, we would have these in-depth conversations about hip hop, and then which would stem to other social stuff. And I thought, you know, wouldn't it be dope if we recorded this and to share it? So that was the birth of the podcast. But it then soon, you know, evolved from just having, you know, the music talk to really other you know, pressing matters. And that was also through, you know, the feedback we got from the people who were listening to us. Okay, you know, remember, so they would come back and say, when you guys touched on this on corporate, that really resonated, and we thought, okay, that there's a market for this.
Wow. Sure. How long have you guys been around?
We started in 2016. Yeah. So
Not 2015?
15.
No,
Late 2015.
late 15. So it's what?
No. Early 15.
Early 15. Was it?
Yeah, because Taban came in at a later stage.
Yeah. So it was just me and Mofert.
It was just Des and I. That's why we say he's the founder, because he's the one that approached me about the idea. Because a lot of the times, like he was saying, we used to get into really deep conversations at the worst time.
Nothing.
Yeah, you know, people would complain like, why are y'all standing in the corner having all these deep-ass conversations why you're supposed to be partying or whatever it is. So then he got the idea to, let's take these conversations and take them elsewhere. Let's put them on wax so that the greater community can hear about them.
Yeah. So it's been 4 or 5 years now we've been doing this. So
Wow.
it started because we really like we really had to coach people how to listen to podcasts. So it sounded as if we were speaking in an echo chamber, but slowly but surely, you know, we had people coming and sitting down and listening to you know the conversations we're having, and now we got a, you know, there's a nice symbiotic relationship between us and our listeners.
And momentum,
Yeah.
Wow. Guys, I mean, you know, you highlighted something very important, I think, in your conversation there, and, you know, about podcasts, the role that they play. And being in South Africa, I mean, it's not something, only now we're beginning to gain some momentum in this space. And for me, just seeing 3 men who have this podcast, I'm like, wow, how do they do it? And you guys are so dedicated to what you do in terms of, I've watched you guys, I've been watching what you're doing when you're doing the drops, the recordings, all of that. Now I want to know, because it's not easy, and people see these things like the finished product almost, and they see you guys as easygoing as you are, and they don't know what it takes to actually put the stuff together. So I want to also know and understand, what are some of the challenges that you have encountered being so new as a country, or maybe even as a continent, in the space of building this podcast? What has been some of the greatest challenges?
So I don't know if you want to touch that one.
Yeah, I can tell you, it's a difficult job, or it's a job like any other job. It's just that it's a job that doesn't pay, and it's a labor of love. So our salary is love, is not necessarily us waking up in the morning because we're trying to get money. Is that the currency that we get out of it is the love that we have for the content that we put out, the feedback that we have that we put out. So the principles of a work ethic still applies, even if you are doing something that's what we call a passion project. So we still wake up in the morning. There's still some thought to the madness. There's still some deadlines that we have. Right now, as we are speaking to you, there's a director in front of us. There's 3 lighting cameras in front of us. There's a facility and a building that's hosting us. And all those things took staying up at night, writing proposals, and letting people, like Des was saying, we have had to convince listeners or teach people how to listen to podcasts. We are also teaching corporates how to treat podcast as a medium. So the work of it is no different from any work that a person gets paid, but the currency is different. So right now, it's not a financial currency, it's a labor of love. So we treat the space as, it's also a therapeutic space, because when we talk to ourselves, we challenge ourselves, we get to unpack stuff, we get to relax, we you know, because remember we said it's a podcast, not a broadcast. We can chill over beers and whatnot. But the one mistaken thing that I've seen in South Africa and maybe elsewhere in the world is that people get on the content bandwagon because the final product always looks easy. You know, I can just have a camera, I can have a phone, but we've been going on for 5 years and we are not running out of things to say, right? And I've seen actually in lockdown where everybody, because they were home and they had their tools and they had the internet, they thought they can get into content, but they were found wanting on the content, but they had the tool. You know, they had the connection, but they had nothing to offer. So you must always have something to offer. So the product, you must have something to offer. If you take advantage, because those are the 3 things, is that if you have the device and the connectivity without the content is always the main thing. And I saw a lot of people that go into it because they've got 66% of the stuff that's required, which is the connectivity and the device. But the 1/3, which is the content, you have to give something to the people that have to consume. So in a nutshell, putting together the podcast is the same way that we address our other jobs that give us money. You know, we are directors, so the podcast is a company. You know, we are directors, we've got meetings, we yell at each other. That's the way. So that's the part that you guys don't see. The same way how you are spelling out, we don't see your boss yelling at you. We just see your car and how cool you look in it.
There's an episode where you guys showed us a bit of a glimpse into, you know, when you have the disputes, when you don't agree.
Yeah. And they get really heated because at the end of the day, it's still, you know, three men, three egos in the room, you know, and when we, you know, are having conversations about, you know, how things are panning out, whether it's behind the scene or on screen, you know, there is clashes, and there needs to be a way we address it. And we wanted to show the people who, you know, it's not all fun and games. Like, there is really, you know, real moments, yeah.
And that was no stage. That was no stage.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
And you know, the thing with podcasts is that, well, not just podcast, with any passion project that you want to pursue, I like to look at podcasting or anything it is that you want to do as going to gym. You know, there's a lot of people at the beginning of the year or at the end of the year saying, okay, next year I'm going to start going to gym. Resolutions. Or what I always say is, the only way that you're going to stay into the gym is if it's something that you love. And if it's something that you love, then it becomes a part of your daily lifestyle. Yeah. It doesn't matter what happens in and around it. It's just something that you know that you're always going to go and do. And that's the same thing with podcasts, because we've seen a lot of podcasts come in saying, you know, we have something or some ideas to give out to the world. But as soon as they realize the amount of work that's involved in putting this thing out to the world, they get discouraged. But it's only after you accept it and acknowledge the fact that this is going to be your life. This is what you're going to go. This is what you're going to have to go out and commit to. That's the only way that you're going to be able to do it weekend in or weekend out, or day in or day out.
Yeah.
Before you accept it as that, then it becomes as a by the way thing. It's very easy for you to say, actually, today I don't feel like it, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. And to what Murise is saying, by the way, in the past 4.5 years, if you're an avid dojo listener, there's no Tuesday where you've never had product.
No.
Yeah.
Consistency.
But I can tell you, there's been weekends where, you know, when we shot the homecoming episode in Bethlehem, it looked good for the angle that we were trying to do, but the reason was because it was Easter. I was flying out of Cape Town. You guys had to go home. I decided to drive with you guys to Bethlehem, and we shot an episode, and I was there to shoot a 1.5 hour episode, but I had to drive back 3 hours.
We were at home on holiday. We didn't have to record that weekend, but because Tuesday, the day that we're supposed to drop, we made sure that we recorded, regardless of where it is that we were at that particular point in time.
Yeah.
And no fan knows that story.
Wow. I think that's such a big thing, because, you know, when you start something, you obviously have a vision for it. And along the journey, sometimes you lose a bit of momentum. It becomes a bit hard as you experience some challenges. You also have your life to live. Yes, it's a passion project, but sometimes, you know, you're like, oh, I'm feeling so lazy today. But the fact that you guys have been able to be so consistent, I think, for me, looking in from the outside, is something that has actually gotten you to where you are at now, with the kind of following that you have, where people are like, you know what, we know these guys are not going to disappoint. We know they'll take the break when they need to take a break, but we know they're consistent in what they do. Now, I also want to know, just in terms of that, like, you know, it's not easy. I look at myself and this platform that I've started for myself, and it's a passion project for me as well. And I know that I'm the only person who can keep pushing myself and keep going. And I imagine where there's a team, because there's 3 of you guys, and there's the broader team, because you mentioned there's a director, there's this and this and this person who is on board. How do you guys, like, basically what roles, because you're not always going to be in the same wavelength. There'll be one of you who's maybe experiencing whatever challenges, but what are your strengths as a collective, and how do you use those to bring each other up in those moments where you're like, oh gosh, I can't do this thing, or whatever the case may be?
That's from research answer.
So what about our strength and
Yes.
how they all
Yeah.
come together, right?
Yeah. And weaknesses. Speak on that too.
So I'll tell you, I'm gonna be very honest.
Be honest. Be honest.
We are honestly. We said we are wrong and unfiltered, so we love it.
See, Tabang's addition to the podcast was really monumental. In the sense that when it was just Des and I, we had the same vision, right? We had the same vision, but we have very differing personalities, right? He's more on the creative side, and I'm more administrative kind of guy, you know. So I'm more concerned with what the contracts look like. I'm more concerned with what the logistics look like. I'm more concerned with, you know, the smooth operations of things, you know. Because he's the founder of the podcast, it's quite evident that the rationale behind him coming up with the idea was based in his desire to put out his thoughts to the world, you know, which then explains why to this day that remains one of his main focuses.
Yeah.
So
And
that's,
strengths.
you know, yeah, and strengths too, because he's the person that comes in here with the topics.
And the title and the posters.
He's the one that handles the interviews when we have guests. He's the one that helps us with the segues in terms of, you know, maneuvering from one topic to another. So he's really good at that. He's good at talking, if I may put it that way, right? But then there's other aspects to running a podcast that are just as important that he's not really interested in.
And doesn't give a fuck about that.
Not really interested in those aspects of the podcast. And sometimes, because you only record a podcast once a week, we were only doing it once a week. It means that the only time that he has to put in work is once a week. Because he just has to sit behind a mic, say what it is that he feels, and that's the end of the week for him. But then there's
the best parts.
yeah, you know, there's so many other things that are happening after that, you know, in terms of editing the podcast, in terms of editing the video, in terms of the marketing, in terms of the spin-off revenue avenues or potential that are existing within the product that we're putting out. And now it got to a point that the workload that I found myself having to deal with was so much. I couldn't handle it on my own because Des is the creator. So with Tabang coming in, he was able to alleviate a lot of that pressure, because initially Tabang wasn't meant to be part of the podcast.
Yes.
Tabang came in as a manager. He came in offering to help us with the admin and the marketing aspect of
Commercialization.
the podcast. But then it just so happened that people loved his opinion so much. He's a man that's very articulate. I'll give him that.
Thank you.
That people wanted to have him on the podcast on a regular basis. So it turned into a whole three-man podcast thing. But I'm grateful for him because he allows for that spread in workload. Yeah. So I don't have to get as upset as at Des anymore like I used to, because I have someone to share
the frustration
with. Yeah.
and I'll tell you the funny thing about the Jojo. So the three of us, we have a WhatsApp, work WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
If I need something from Mudise, I don't WhatsApp Mudise directly. I WhatsApp him on the podcast. If I go to Des's house and I'm outside to drop off something, I communicate on the group. It's the funniest thing.
Why?
Yeah, but I think what Mudise is articulating is more the clinical stuff, because I'm a more philosophical person. So being philosophical, I just always feel like it was meant to happen, because when we, like he said, I was never meant to be part of the podcast. We just found that there was so much synergies between us that it was too coincidental for us to just dismiss it. You know, like Grabasoto, we love we love we love hip hop, and
Libua, all of you.
like yeah, I went to boarding school in the same village where Mudise's mom is from, but I only found out last year that me and Des are from the same clan. So things just gelled, and it was like a perfect science.
Yeah.
And then we also see that the beautiful thing about it is that we cover our weaknesses. We cover our weaknesses with our strengths. Like we've never really, in the past 2 years, we've never really had moments where we felt like, fuck it, I'm not gonna be a part of this anymore. You know, is that like Mudise is saying?
But without the addition of Tabang,
Yeah, it would have been.
it could have gotten to that.
It would have been stressful.
Because I'm not gonna lie, I was getting frustrated. I was getting frustrated because Des was like, he was just recording and he called it a week. I was getting frustrated. So had it not been for Tabang, because Tabang came and alleviated that pressure, that I didn't have to sweat Des, and Des hates, you see, and this is the contrast, because I hate having to carry the workload, but Des hate being, he hates being sweated.
Yeah, and by sweating I mean like I hate being nagged. Like don't
Micromanage.
Yeah, don't micromanage.
I don't like that.
Yeah, so I don't. So coming in to speak on what both of these guys were saying, because when I approached Medisus to start the podcast, I knew my weaknesses. So I knew that I wanted to voice my thoughts, but I knew that I'm not the most articulate. But I knew like the things that I wanted to put out and the ideas that I wanted to put out, and I knew that my friend is good at articulating himself.
No,
So-
that's not why he came to me. He came to me. He came to
Part
me.
of the reason, bro.
Let me tell you why he came to me. He came to me because I had
Yeah.
a large follower.
Yeah, that also helped. That
Because
also
he had
helped.
what?
That-
He had what?
oh yeah, so he had a large follower account on Twitter too.
He's huge on social media.
Yes. So that was also part of the reason. So I'm not disputing that, but also, you know, that part of the fact that he is really articulate is also part of the reason why I you know selected him to do that. But the other stuff, let's all that, you know, helped. You know. and now, you know, looking at the strengths and the weaknesses that we have as a group, you know, and the synergy that we have, because now we've found like a symbiotic relationship where we keep each other honest. You know, everything that they're saying, I'm not denying. You know, when it comes to, you know, the actual work behind the scenes, I do slack off because it's not as challenging. I don't want to say challenging, but it's not. I'm not inspired. You know, so but
What
when
we're
we
not
get in
told-
front of when we get in front of these mics and we have to now record this podcast, like I'm all in. But you know, through these conversations that we've had, through these fights that some of these fights that we've had, because we've really had some really honest, you know, conversations in the group, you know, where we had to you know, you gotta look at each other sharp. You know, it's still a work in progress, but I feel like things are better than what they used to be, Jen.
And we're gonna take
And
and by the way, that's not the most pen name.
And that's you see, that's the classic representation of talent versus management. Because Des on the podcast, even though he only because he to us he looks like the guy that does the least, but he's the most loved.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's the most loved.
Yeah.
People love him,
I take that.
but he literally does the least. I'm gonna tell you that now. Des does the least on this podcast. Yeah. I'll tell every one of you listeners that are listening to another. This nigga
Yeah,
does the least,
yeah.
but he's loved the most.
What do
The
you
weirdest thing.
But I mean, is he really doing the least? If he is the most loved, is he really doing the least? Because he's the most loved, like you say. So
No, I was gonna add to that point is that, but the love that the people have for him is an important ingredient for the podcast.
It's warranted, yeah.
Even if it irritates us, but in the equation, in the perfect equation, it matters the most. Waratua, and with that love and with how he delivers himself, that's why I'm saying with it. It's like this is a pot of stew, you know, like if you have to look at the ingredients of stew, or super beef stock. How spicy?
No, you can't.
I wish to egg beef stock.
Yeah, you can't.
But it's an important part of the ingredients.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm saying there are parts of the podcast that are not visible. And then there are parts that are, and for the fans, we can't discard what is visible because it gives the invisible part, it gives us frustration for the invisible part. So it's a perfect sign.
Because you see the comments. You see the comments. You see the comments.
I'm looking at the comments. I'm looking at the comments. They're like, listen, you are the Beyonce of the podcast.
You see the comments.
Everyone's also saying, you know, people relate to you better because they were also lazy. So we love you because you're also lazy.
You know?
The comments are
But just so y'all know, this nigga does the least.
Aye. Yahana.
Just so it's out there.
Yahana.
He doesn't do nothing.
But let's go.
You're sitting in the center, and there's something about you sitting in the center. Beyonce.
And by the way, there's a reason why Des sits in the center.
What is that? What is that reason?
So in interior design, there's an importance between time and space. Right? So Des represents both sides of the coin sometimes, because Des, in the podcast, he's the one who always holds us together. So our energies, if we are on the same side, they are off. Because Nalimudi says something, but we need Des in the. You see, that's what I'm saying. When you look at a meal, there are ingredients that are important but are not visible. Right? So Des sits in the middle of this shit because this is his shit. It's his podcast. He started it. It was his thought. So when we came together, he always sits in the middle because he takes both. So he diffuses the likeness between me and Maurice.
Because what Des represents, he represents the man that is still learning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is everyone.
Yeah.
Which is literally everyone. Right? I remember Bongani Briggs was saying that he enjoys his dissenting voice because Des sticks to his word. You know, this is how he feels about a particular thing, whether or not it's politically correct or not. This is how he feels about it. Right? And those feelings are actually feelings that are shared by a majority of the population.
Yeah.
And that's why people really resonate with what he says so much.
Yes.
You know, so Des represents the population that we're trying to convert.
Yes.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how people relate to him so much, because they can't relate to me as much as they relate to Des, because I'm at another point. You know, but everybody else is where Des is at right
He's
now.
a point of reference. Yes.
He's a point of reference. So everybody relates to what he says and how he says it and what it is that he says.
Yeah. And to hark back to what Lisa mentioned about the podcast is that when you see the change of my thoughts over the span of the podcast, you can see that learning, and you can even see it in the comments that we receive back from our listeners. You know, because then we see the tangible work that we're doing. Because then when we receive feedback is that, wow, guys, I'm so glad that, you know, I used to be here, but now I'm here with regards to this particular issue based on the conversations that you guys were having.
Yeah, but they never call us out by name, though. They never give us the credit to say, you know what, Maurice and Tabang helped us on this journey.
Yes.
Always when they are protesting against the things that we're saying, that they mention his name, but we never get the credit. I see y'all.
You must name it. You must tell them. You must tell these fans. Now, you guys are, I mean, I've been looking at these comments and what people are saying, and they love you, they're laughing. And I think you're especially loved for the fact that you're so raw and unfiltered and you speak your mind. I'm just curious, with regards to your families, like your immediate families, how do they take the whole thing? Have they seen some of the episodes and some of how you guys are?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Like now, because with the podcast, what we try to do is to be as honest and real as possible. And so sometimes, that realness, when it comes to the people that you love or the relationships that we have, outside the podcast, it becomes too real, because sort of, when your loved ones listen to the podcast, it's as if they are a fly, on the wall of your thoughts. So things that you wouldn't have normally articulated to them, they are privy to because they listen to your podcast. So things that I would have just spoke to with the boys about maybe anything,
You have to account.
Now I have to account because now, when I get to the house, So it's been very tricky, and it's been very tricky for us to manage. And I know for myself, what I've always tried to convey to my loved ones is that the podcast was born of love, like Tabam mentioned. It's something I care very deeply for, and even though you might not always agree with the things that I say, on that podcast, but it doesn't mean that we can't discuss it. But it's difficult because now I have to always account for everything that I mentioned on there. So I try to appeal to my loved ones to understand the privilege that they have of them having, this open view to my thoughts.
And maybe you having to account for the things that you say on the podcast might not necessarily be a bad thing.
Yes.
Because if you have to account for it, then it might mean that the conversation that's happening could have been a conversation that you should have been having to begin with.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes.
Whoa.
So it's tough. It's very tough. It's very tough.
But for me, because also how our relationships are structured as the presenters is also different, and it's we almost learn from each other because I've been married for quite some time. I've got 3 kids and stuff like that. So for me, the only challenge that I've had with the podcast has been the time that I give to the podcast, not the content I give around the podcast.
Right.
So so for me, it's like I don't go home and like I'm worried about my wife because my wife knows every part of me.
So for you, it's been time.
It's been time.
For us, it's been content.
It's content.
So what I say on here, if it goes sideways, I need to go and account for it.
Yeah. And for me, as the stubborn person I am, I don't want to always account for the things that I say. So hence I'm always like, whether I speak about, intimate things with either a girlfriend or intimate things I have with my siblings, they'll come back with, hey, there's Mfethu, I didn't think you would share something like this on the pod, And then I'm like, hey, number one, I have to acknowledge, obviously I shared a private moment on the pod, but it comes to the honesty I
feel that way a lot of times about some of the things that Des says, because I'll be sitting there thinking, whenever you giving away a bit too much right now.
Yes. But for me, it speaks to the honesty that I want to bring to the podcast.
And that's who you are.
Yes. Yeah. It speaks to the honesty I want to bring to the, even though I know that I run the risk to might, fracture a little bit my relationships privately. But what I try to appeal to the people that I love is that, these are my honest thoughts. And you need to appreciate that you're also getting my honest thoughts. I'm always open, to discuss the things that I say, even though I may have rubbed you off the wrong way, or even though you may have felt that I may have not shared it, but they know I love this podcast.
And also, what people might not know, some people know that have listened to us for a while, is that our comments and thoughts on issues are raw and unrefined. But there's a truth that sits in the middle of them. So sometimes I may say the truth, but I didn't encapsulate it with cushions.
Yes.
So a lot of times is that when people challenge you, even like at home or whatever, is that people always have the problem with the packaging of the product. So it's almost like, never, that was too intimate for you to share.
Yeah.
But when we come here, we never know, because we are not produced. We don't have a producer. We are not produced for a Sky Tantrina. So the podcast is to give you the most raw form of a man that you can ever get. And it is for you to then say, oh, but this is who he is. So we're not here because we're trying to, because the difference is that if we get produced, we're gonna bore people. Because then you can listen to the radio.
We can't be who we want to be.
You can go to the radio where they're gonna tell you there's an ad, there are news. We literally get here in the morning and we don't know what we're gonna talk about. We don't. Because we are not produced. We are just a podcast. And most people don't. People think that we came here knowing what. Yes, I'm not saying we don't have a rough idea what we're going to talk about. There are things that we can't ignore that are social topics. But I don't know what my thought on what EFF did this week. I didn't structure it at home. Or when they ask me at this moment, this is what I'm going to say. So the principle, you can walk away with the principle that, but the framing of it was a spur of a moment. Now people fight us on the framing and not the principle.
Yeah.
Because we don't come in here prepared saying that this is what we're going to talk about, and hence I need to do the required pre-reading in order for us to discuss these matters. I come in here as a normal human being, same way you would have if I would have asked you right now about whatever it is or however it is that you feel about a particular matter.
Yeah.
And you would shoot right straight from the hip.
Yeah.
The same way that we do. So that's why I like to say that we did not promise that we would be right. But we promised you that we would
be honest
and authentic.
And be
I like that. Guys, sorry, I need to interrupt you. Instagram limits us, and I'm listening so intently. Instagram interrupts us when we've done this for an hour and we have reached our hour. Can you believe it? We're having such a great conversation. So what I'm going to do, we're going to go off. We're going to go off and we're going to reconnect. Modisa, it does not mean it's a smoke break. No, it is not a smoke break.
I'd just like to apologize because it seems like we hijacked your IG live because we've been talking.
No! I love it. I love it. I love it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go off, save it, because if it cuts us off, then I can't save it. So I'm going to go off, save it on my IGTV, and then I'll go live, and then you guys join me again.
Okay, sure.
Cool. And the audience, please do rejoin us as well.
Yeah, some interesting comments. Thank you, Dinkley. I saw the question. Is it Miss Popsy? I saw the question too. I think we'll respond when we come back.
Perfect. Let's see what she's saying. I see now. I always wonder why these guys don't bother to do some bare minimum pre-reading. Okay, cool. We'll address it.
Yeah, I think so. Sure. Next week.